of art in the collection of Dr. and Mrs. Rod Barnes represents much of the creative output of Inez Marshall. Ms. Marshall was born in Burr Oak, Kansas in 1907. Marshall was a self-taught sculptor and painter who turned to creative expression after surviving an auto accident in about 1939. During her convalescence, she began to carve pieces of rock which she found locally. She described this beginning as a form of inspiration, and it launched her into a career in art which came to occupy most of her time and energy, resulting in a large body of sculpture and paintings exhibiting great variety, ingenuity, and consistency of vision. During her lifetime, Marshall was quite serious about her artistic achievement and installed her works in exhibit halls called Continental Sculpture Hall, first in Portis and later in Abilene, Kansas. She conducted guided tours through the Continental Sculpture Hall, culminating in a formal performance presentation of the Kennedy Table, one of her most unusual and outstanding sculptures. A wealth of information regarding her life and sculpture career is contained in her autobiography, as well as tape recordings of her guided tours. Marshall was drawn to the limestone native to the region, and though she had no training in carving and presumably no background in art history, or technical expertise in the field of sculpture, she quickly developed a fluency from the media as well as unique methods of translating her subject matter into sculptures of aesthetic power and personality. Like much intuitively based artwork, Marshall's work often suggests that self-portrait regardless of subject, whether human or animal. Marshall either carved directly from various types of local limestone or produced a composition stone made from stone powder and other unknown materials, which she formed while the material was flexible. Most of her pieces are brightly polychrome, though some were allowed to retain their natural color of stone. Marshall worked in various modes, creating single figures, tableau of several images, dioramas, and architectural displays which were elaborate in detail both within and in the surrounding exterior space. Lighting was a concern, not so much on the sculpture, but as an element of the sculpture. She made several sculptures which also functioned as lamps, and several of her architectural pieces were wired to light up inside and out. Marshall primarily depicted subjects familiar to most. She was as comfortable with penguins, auks, and polar bears as she was with local birds and animals. Historical or legendary subjects, such as the holdup of a covered wagon or the Last Supper, were executed in great detail. Her depictions of heroes and events of the 20th century make up some of her most original work. Her admirations for Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy were expressed in truly outstanding sculptural tableaux. Lincoln with his family, Lincoln in his study, and the extraordinary Kennedy Table, in which Marshall fluidly incorporates symbolism and sculptural skill into her most unique accomplishment. Marshall also made a number of commemorative plates and plaques depicting birds, butterflies, and other common subjects. Though these are simple and straightforward, many of them contain an intuitively strong sense of design, color, and composition. Her paintings and low-relief plaques exhibit a wonderful tension in composition, and in much of her two-dimensional work, it is evident that Marshall was pushing the surface to three-dimensionality. Marshall's work is straightforward and honest, without pretension or a great deal of mystery. Whether carving a wheel of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle or a juggler, Marshall's sculptures contain a solidity which reflects both artist and her materials, as well as a bold sense of simplified presence, without being simplistic or sentimental. After Marshall's death, the majority of her work were sold at auction and moved to Florida. In an attempt to preserve this body of work as a whole and return it to the context of the landscape and region from which it originated, Dr. and Mrs. Rod Barnes purchased the estate, returned it to Kansas, and have installed it in an exhibition building which is similar to the Marshall's Continental Sculpture Hall installations.
These are a few of the works by Inez Marshall. The One Lost Sheep. This pictures Christ the shepherd with sheep, landscape in the background in low relief. Church. Sculpture of white church with bell and tower, pulpit, organ, bench, 8 pews, 9 people, organist and preacher, light over doorway and interior electrified, stone and composition stone, polychromed in mixed media. The Model T automobile. This is a very detailed sculpture of a Model T. It is approximately 15 inches by 8 by 9.5 inches, and it's out of stone composition stone in mixed media and polychromed. Christ knocking at the door painting. The painting is done on glass. It's painted front and reverse, wood, masonite, and glass. The frame is plaster carved in relief with flowers, polychromed brown. Sunshine Hospital. The hospital interior is modern style 2-story building with picture windows allowing a clear view of the interior rooms. The waiting room, the man with bandaged head reclining in pain on the red sofa, the dog seated in the center, the woman seated in the chair reading. The operating room, the doctor with hands outstretched over patient on the table covered with sheet, chloroform, cloth over nose and mouth, nurse with instrument table on one side. The dining room, RN nurse and man in suit standing in front of a table set with place settings and food. Composition stone or stone, mixed media, polychromed, electrically lit interior also. The size of this piece is 43 inches in length, 26 in width, and 25 inches to the top of the chimney. The Last Supper. The painting of the Last Supper figures in the upper room with chandelier and drapery, jugs and clothing in foreground. Stone in carved stone frame, polychromed. The Minstrel Band. Fatso with accordion, Tilly sitting at the piano with purse on floor, Smiles with the violin, Fats top with the bass violin, Slim with the hat. These are stone and or composition stone carved and polychromed. The overall dimension of this grouping is 30 inches in width by 30 in depth by about 2 inches in height. Quail plate. Quail painted in fine detail on plate, seated on a log with grasses and flowers, white background and pink scallop border. The stone carved in low relief and polychromed. Prospector and donkey. Standing prospector with donkey, packed with shovel, pick, and canteen. The prospector's head and hat are removable. Hunter on horseback. Hunter in red jacket, seated on brown horse, rabbit hanging from the saddle horn, composition stone, carved, polychromed, mixed media. The red hobnail picture set. It is valued at $900. The pieces are the pitcher, the 5 glasses, the tray on feet. The pitcher height is about 8 inches by 6 inches in depth. Could be possibly inscribed. The juggler. A standing girl gazing upwards holding 3 balls. Yellow shirt with tan bow, green trousers with tiny painting of dog's head on left front of trousers. Saddle shoes. It's 16 inches tall. Boy pushing wheelbarrow with dog. A smiling young boy in blue overalls and a red shirt hefting a wheelbarrow with straw and a small black and white bull-type dog. Overall, the size is 25 inches high, 11 in width, and 31 inches in depth. Girl seated in rocker. Girl in pink floral cloth dress seated in red rocker. It is out of stone, composition stone, carved, polychromed. The cobbler scene. The cobbler sitting on swivel stool in front of work table with elaborately carved base, hammer and punch, shoe tee in front. Polar bear and bear cub on rocks with fish. White mama polar bear on all fours with large green fish in her teeth. Bear cub at her side, bears on plywood base with white rocks. Stone and composition stone, carved, polychromed, glass eye, and plywood base. The overall dimensions are 23 inches high, 53 inches wide, and 66 inches in depth. District 154 Schoolhouse and Schoolyard Tableau. The school building, light and bell in school, potbelly stove in school, left side 3 desks, 1 student sitting. Front room has a desk and captain's chair, boy standing at blackboard. The right side has 3 desks and seats. The schoolyard to the left is the boys' outhouse, boy at back of schoolhouse playing, Annie over. 2 boys playing leapfrog, a seesaw with a boy and a girl, a water pump, a teacher, girls' outhouse at the right. Abe Lincoln tabloid. Abe Lincoln seated in armchair reading a book entitled Slavery Auction Block. Room consists of paneled wall, yellow drapery, a bed with quilt, a chair and table on beaded rug with lamp and book. Lincoln has a little gold watch which fits in his pocket. Stone and composition stone, carved and polychromed. The Model T Ford, chiseled from solid rock. The Model T sculpture, carved and highly detailed, painted black with gold trim, yellow wheel spokes, stone and composition stone. The size is 30 inches in length, 18 inches in width, and 32 inches in height. The covered wagon, couple, and mule team. Covered wagon, 2 mules, Ma and Pa on seat in wagon. Lantern on the front of the wagon. The wagon's dimensions are 80 inches in length, 36 in width, and 60 inches in height. The Kennedy table. Elaborate black 4-legged table with arched handle over top. Structure of table is covered entirely with relief carvings of grapes and vines. At the peak of the archway, a spotlight is mounted pointing downward to the table. On the top of the arch is a carved bird holding a sign in its beak, 35th. Under the bird are the words Charity, Hope, Faith. The tabletop has a blue star surrounded by Kennedy's coins inscriptions. The piece is accompanied by a tape recording of Inez Marshall in a performance which the artist enacted regarding the table and its symbolism.
A number of years ago, in an excerpt from Bob Dole, he stated a few comments about Inez Marshall. Inez manages to carve unbelievably lifelike objects from chunks of stone, sometimes weighing as much as 1,000 pounds. Her interest in stone sculpturing was accidental in itself. During the time she was bedridden, her father would carry her to the front door where she would sit and look outside. One day she noticed a small rock in the yard and asked her father to bring it to her. She borrowed his pocket knife and began to carve aimlessly. A replica of a little squirrel emerged. Her work tools today are just as simple. She relies on knives, chisels, hammers, saws, hand braces, and bits and a specially bent screwdriver. A tour through the Continental Sculpture Hall is unforgettable. There is, for instance, an old couple in a covered wagon, pulled by two horses. The couple, their horses, the harnesses, and the chassis of the wagon are all carved from stone. The heads of the man and women even turn. It's all scaled in about half the normal size, including the hold-up man that stands nearby. A church required 3,000 hours of carving, and that doesn't count the many more hours it took to carve the minister, organist, congregation, pews, and altar. It all weighs 400 pounds. An exact replica of a 1917 Model T Roadster weighs 600 pounds. The detail is startling, right down to the wheels turning by the steering wheel, foot pedals, transmission, engine that open, movable gas and spark levers, crank, a hood that lifts on either side, gas tank, and a threaded radiator cap. The radiator holds water and the lights work, and it's all carved from stone. Her limestone comes primarily from Jewell County. Most of her works are carved from one solid piece. When working with a replica of a building, for instance, she completes the interior carving by reaching through the doors and windows. But when more than one piece is involved, even her bonding mortar is made of rock, a compound of ground limestone and native rock that blends right in. She begins at the top of the rock and works downward. She uses no drawings, no molds, and no power equipment. The finished piece is painted in natural colors with latex or enamel paint. To use her right hand, she places it on her knee and puts her foot on the rock at the desired height. She moves her immobile hand by moving the other knee. Other noteworthy displays include huge three-dimensional paintings weighing hundreds of pounds. There's even a rock guitar which can actually be played. You have to give Inez Marshall credit for being a most unusual woman. She has specialized in occupations normally reserved for men. But all that was before the accident. Now Miss Marshall has a new and even more unusual occupation as a stone sculptress.